Meantime, between now and Election Day, there are 8 battleground states, and we're zeroing in on these swing states each and every week. This week, our spotlight is on Pennsylvania.
I'm here in Erie, Pennsylvania with the workers who used to be Democrats, but now they're all Trump Republicans because they know that Trump is going to take them to the promised land. We will.
Former President Trump there in Erie, Pennsylvania, one of, if not the most important battleground states in this election, 36 days from the election. And the race is tight in the Keystone State, 19 electoral votes. According to our partners at Decision Desk headquarters, Harris has a 1.1% lead over Trump right now. Joining us is Lee Carter, president of the Maslansky Partners, and a research firm focused on finding the language and the messages that move audience and voters based on the simple idea it's not what you say that matters, but it's what they hear. She's also the author of Persuasion, Convincing Others When Facts Don't Seem to Matter. Lee, thank you for joining us. I want to start with the storm. As we get ready to hear from President Biden, both Trump and Kamala Harris are preparing to shift their campaign stops to respond. And when you talk about what people hear right now and them meeting the moment with some heart in this devastation, what does that look like and how impactful could it be with about a month until the election?
I think it's a really important moment for both candidates. And frankly, it's surprising that we haven't heard from them directly sooner than this. There are other catastrophes that happened, natural disasters, and presidents were really come after and attacked for not responding soon enough. And I think this is one of those instances we're looking at devastation in the area. And so I think this is going to be a moment where people are going to see how much empathy, how much care these candidates have. And frankly, that's very important to voters, and how people react in moments of crisis.
And what does the right response look like? I mean, they're in these communities. I think Trump's going to be in Valdosta. We were just hearing from the governor of Georgia. What is the right delicate balance of going out to people in their time of need?
I think that the first thing is we need to address the issue. We need to be talking about what needs to happen. A lot of people out there without any message are saying that they just don't care enough. Donald Trump talking about it yesterday, Kamala Harris posting something late last night. I think part of what needs to happen right now is an authentic response. So if they go and they show up in one of these areas and they seem to be inconsistent with who they are, it's going to cause a real problem. But if they show up authentically who they are, genuinely caring, showing what they're going to do, even showing what their presidency could look like, that's going to really benefit them.
Yeah, and be careful not to make any missteps, because it could be easy to say or do the wrong thing in these critical times. Pennsylvania is our focus, and it will be on the campaign trail between now and November. Why is that state, Lee, so critical?
First of all, Pennsylvania often predicts the presidency. So 77% of the time where Pennsylvania goes, so does the presidency. So I think that's one reason it's so important. The other reason is there's a lot of electoral college votes that go with this state, and many people say it's a bellwether for the rest of the country. It has gone Democratic more than it has gone Republican in recent years, but it still is a really good indicator for what the rest of the country is going to do.
When it comes to what these candidates are saying on the campaign trail and what people hear, talk to me about that difference, right? That fine line.
So it's really fascinating to see what's happened. Kamala Harris has come on the scene over the last 60+ days, completely redefined the presidency that she has been part of. And she's very forward-looking. She represents change according to the polls. A lot of people think that she is a change candidate, despite the fact that she's a sitting vice president. So she has had fascinating message. The problem that she has is many people still have questions on what is she going to do different in her presidency than she's doing right now. She has to address the difference between the economy today and the economy that she's going to bring. Many people think there's not going to be a difference. On the other hand, Donald Trump has spent most of his time really talking about how bad things are. He's very backwards looking. And that's not what people want to hear. People are very familiar with how bad things are today. They want to know what does the Trump presidency part 2 look like? A lot of people are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on the economy, saying, you know what, things were better 4 years ago for me economically than they are today. But they want to hear more of that. He's been running really hard on immigration, less on the economy. And I think voters want to hear more about the economy, specifically how prices are going to come down.
Yeah, those messages matter. Lee Carter, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.